Now, being from a big family, she had her daily duties, and her duty, one of them, I suspect, was to go to the well for water. None of this ganning through to the kitchen to turn on the tap for her. No, winding up a bucket of water or fishing out a bucket of water from the well. No luxuries there. Now, when she finished school, that was what she did. She went and got the water out of the well. And this was what it was like living in no more than a wooden shack and an old caravan that was bought by her mum, Sally. Now, her grandmother kept chickens and geese to help fill the hungry mouths of the family. Her mother, rather. And one day, Eva had terrible pains in her stomach, and her dad, Arthur, ran all the way to Berkeley for the doctor. Now, of course, this is the day when you had to pay for the doctor. The doctor wasn't just at the end of the phone. Well, they're not at the end of the phone at the moment, but in those days, you had to pay for them. So he ran into Berkeley to get the doctor, and the doctor took her to hospital. And it turned out that young Eva had appendicitis. So they wheaked it out. That's a technical term for they removed it. And they did this in order to save her life. And later on in life, having recovered from this, she moved to another street, to York Road in Berkeley, and she lived there till she was around 20 years old, and she met Jack Bell. Now, when they married, they had two sons, John and young David. And later on, of course, she became a much-loved and loving grandmother as well, and I know that that was something that was very important. Now, you've said this, you say this, John. My mum was a loving, gentle soul that was very loving towards me and my family. I always went to her for advice when I had difficult times, as we all do from time to time. We helped each other, both ways to get on with life. She could always sum people up and tell me what she thought of them, which I admired very much. And I will miss her terribly and hope she's with her husband Jack, which is what she believed in. And I felt so sad that I could not be with her in her final hours to say goodbye to my best friend. But it was not practical with this virus. I will love you always, ma'am, your loving son, John. And that's a beautiful tribute, and I thank you for asking me to share that. And that is one of the sadnesses of this time, that we can't spend time, well, it's getting easier now, but sometimes we can't spend time with our loved ones because of the isolation of COVID. Now, I've got another tribute here, and this one comes from niece Sandra, brother Billy, Jeff, and Tara. Eva was my dad's sister, and there were 9 children, and Eva, my dad, and his twin brother were the youngest, along with Olive, who was just a bit older. They would stick together as the older children were in their teens, and the younger ones would get picked on quite a bit from the older brothers, making them do things like jumping in the pond when they couldn't swim. Oh, terrible. It was hard times growing up, but they just got on with it. And over the years, Dad and I would visit Eva, and they would reminisce about their time as children and all that went on. But they came through it. The last time I took Dad to see Eva, I sat and listened to them talking about the past. And I thought to myself, how wonderful it was, my auntie aged 94 and my dad 92. Unbelievable memories, both of them, quite amazing. Auntie Eva was very special. She was so funny, and I loved to listen to as she sometimes complained about the old people. How old were they? About 210. And she was probably the oldest. My dad will miss her for sure, as we all will. She never grew old in the mind, and that was a blessing for the most part. We will never forget all the good times, because there were lots with Uncle Jackie, and those were the best times ever. Hope he's waiting for you with that cheeky smile. God bless you both. And as I said, that's from niece Sandra, brother Billy, Jeff, and Tara. We all loved you dearly. Now, this next tribute is from granddaughter Lauren. That must be you, yes. Nana, I see how the glamour thing fits in, yes. Nana always told me how having me and Stephen to focus on when Grandad Jack passed away was what kept her going. She loved pushing me around Saltwell Park in my buggy. That wasn't yesterday then, I take it. When we were leaving and I was due a nap, she told me all the birds in the trees were tweeting, telling me to go to sleep or to go pee-pees. You sure that was sleeping? Go pee-pees, as she would say, and it always worked. She loved those days and often recalled the day a duck snatched a nice bun from my hand, which I was just about to eat, and knowing no better as a toddler, I gave it a gentle kick. And what, the duck? You gave the duck a kick, you wicked devil. It always made her laugh. But did it still take your bun? But it didn't give you your bun back? Oh, the wretch. Oh, that's a shame. Nana always loved a cuddle, no matter how old we got, and we were always her bairns. Being young at heart, she'd love to see me all dressed up with my makeup on, and I know if she could have come along on my girls' night out, she'd love to. Every time I'd see her, she'd tell me she liked every item I was wearing, especially my handbag and fur coats. She'd tell me off for having too many, but I'm quite sure it was a hint, so I'd send one her way. She liked to be glam, as she'd say. We had a bit of a scare with Nana's health last year and did worry her time had come, even going to the hospital to say our goodbyes. Lo and behold, the next day she was sat up with a cup of tea, not stomaching the hospital's coffee, which tasted like mud, and vowing to dye her hair pink when she returned home. Lo and behold, next time I saw her, she was the proud owner of Candy Floss Locks, and she looked fantastic. I could say absolutely anything to Nana and she wouldn't bat an eyelid. Safe to say we've shared conversations not many granddaughters would have with their elderly grandmother. She was a one-off with a wicked sense of humour, and I love that we had a relationship like that. Stephen and I loved sleepovers at Nana's when she lived at the Crescent in Chesterley Street, probably because we knew it was a weekend with no rules, running wild, getting away with murder, and even a little tipple of baby sham. Did your family know about that? Did you think? Yeah, did you know that cat's out of the bag? And the best porridge I've ever tasted. Nana had an open door, and even my friend Emma loved to stay at Nana Bell's. I remember vividly we asked her who the man was in the painting on her wall. Well, Nana said, I was married to him. He used to pick me up on the back of his horse, and we'd go riding in the forest before I met your granddad. Only later, years later, did I realise this was one of Nana's wonderful tales, and the man was in fact the Laughing Cavalier. Myself, Stephen, David and John took Nana on holiday to Mallorca many years ago, and she wasn't fond of the heat, but sat happily in the shade, stroking stray kittens and watching Stephen and I play in the pool. Now, I could go on for days telling tales of Nana, and some I couldn't possibly repeat, they're the best, but will hold dear to my heart. She was the most loving woman I've met. Warm, funny, sometimes a little cheeky, and often a little bit naughty. Every time I have a sherry, it will always be for Nana. It gives me peace that she genuinely believed she'd be back with Jack. Now, David says, Eva had David later in life, giving birth at home at Brackenbends Road. Do you know, I've practiced saying that.
Just think of breakfast in bed.
Breckenben, oh, for goodness sake. You know what I mean. Do you know, I've been practicing that, and he's shaking his head. I've been practicing that all morning. I think she secretly hoped for a girl, but loved him all the same, if not more. He had a house full of pets, even hiding some in the cupboard under the stairs, and a ferret that killed the neighbour's rabbit, but he never got told off, and had the happiest childhood in a house of love, laughter and chaos. He was a real mammy's boy and enjoyed winding his dad up, with John especially first thing in the morning when Jack could be rather grumpy. It was one of the only things Eva ever told them off for. Give over, she'd always say. David was not a lover of school and was very rarely there. Setting off in the morning and playing truant in the woods all day, coming home covered in dirt, but Eva would run a bath and turn a blind eye. He couldn't do wrong in her eyes. She was all he could ask for in a man, and it done him no harm, as Eva would say. Presumably one of these trips in the woods is when you come home with one of your animals. An alpaca or a deer or some other strange creature. Now, Stephen, where's Stephen? You're Stephen. Stephen is Eva's grandson. You say this: "My Nana was a very dear friend to me, being truthful and kind, and she advised me and other members of the family on what she thought to be the best in many difficult circumstances. Eva always tried to understand and listen to our lives, even if at times it proved difficult to explain the modern world and all the details. She was never afraid of giving her opinion on people or situations once she could grasp them fully, but most of all, what she understood very well is that she loved and was loved very much by her family. This is something that will never change. She had an exceptionally good sense of humour, being able to laugh at herself and others, often not realising quite how funny she was. As Eva's responses were so genuine and brutally honest that it could be a shock for those around her to imagine a woman of her age saying such things. This was one of the natural gifts that she had at spreading her joy and laughter, though her intentions were never malicious. Her integrity held up after 94 years as a strong, kind and generous soul, a great lover of cats and a bloody good drink." Maybe it is a big glass after all then. "As her grandson, I would try to help her in any way possible. Being confined to her home in the later stages of life, she always knew the time I gave helping her was my attempt at improving her quality of life, even if slightly. Being with her was enough to improve her quality of life greatly, as family was always Eva's main care here on earth. She cherished the time we all spent with her and counted the days for it to happen again. The tragedy that her family could not be with her or even see her at the time she passed fills us all with sadness, but I know deep down if she had understood the risks and difficult choices, she would not have wanted us to go, even if our hearts still ache to see her one last time. I will sorely miss going to visit my gran on Monday nights, as this was the time to laugh and carry on with a wise woman I spent my entire life knowing. Someone who had a life of her own with many incredibly hard and fascinating stories of the past, but could still smile and laugh about it now after all those years. We shared a bond that could last a lifetime, and I will always treasure all the memories and precious time you have given me, and many others with me today. I hope Eva's final wish of being reunited with her husband Jack has now come to pass, and she is with those she has loved in life once more, free from the mortal burdens she sadly faced for many years here on earth." I'm sure you'll agree, my friends, that these are beautiful tributes to a very special lady, and one way that we can all add our thanks and our gratitude and our love to those tributes is with a round of applause. And I invite you to join with me in a round of applause in tribute to Eva, a very special lady. Would you like me to send your tributes with Eva on her final journey?